The Harrison family boardroom hadn't changed in 20 years. Same mahogany table, same leather chairs, same oil painting of my grandfather looking down at us with stern disapproval. I sat quietly at the far end, watching my father pace the room like he owned every molecule of air in it. Which technically, he did. Harrison Technologies needs fresh blood, he announced, hands clasped behind his back. New investment, new ideas, new leadership for the next generation. My older brother, Marcus, straightened his tie, already smirking. My younger sister, Sophia, tapped her manicured nails against her tablet, pretending to take notes. I kept still, my proposal folder unopened in front of me. That's why, Dad continued, I'm opening up shares in the company. Family only, of course. But, he paused for effect, you'll need to bring something to the table. We're talking serious investment. 7 figures minimum. Marcus raised his hand like we were still in grade school. I've already liquidated my tech stocks, Dad. I'm ready to put in $2 million. Excellent. Dad beamed. That's the kind of initiative we need. Sophia jumped in. James and I have discussed it. We can match that from our hedge fund returns. Perfect. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Real money, real commitment. Then all eyes turned to me. Alexandra Harrison, the middle child, the quiet one, the one who'd walked away from the family business 5 years ago to find herself. At least, that's how they described it. I cleared my throat. I'd like to present a proposal for modernizing our supply chain. And, Alex, Dad cut me off. We need actual capital, not ideas. How much can you invest? I met his gaze steadily. My current liquid assets are around $800,000. The room filled with poorly concealed snickers. Marcus actually rolled his eyes. Oh, sweetie. Sophia cooed with fake sympathy. This is a big kid's game. Maybe sit this one out? Dad's face hardened. We need someone with actual money to invest, Alexandra. Not whatever you've scraped together from your little consulting work. I didn't tell them about the other $50 million in assets I'd accumulated, or about the negotiations I'd been quietly conducting with Summit Industries, Harrison Tech's biggest competitor. I just nodded, gathered my things, and stood up. I understand. Thank you for the opportunity. Alex, Dad called as I reached the door. Maybe in a few years, when you've built up some real wealth. I closed the door quietly behind me. 2 weeks later, I sat in my real office, the top floor of a downtown high-rise, watching the morning news unfold on multiple screens. The headline scrolled across each one. Bureing, Summit Industries, NNOUNCE, NNEU Alumni ship. My phone started buzzing immediately. First Marcus, then Sophia, then a stream of notifications from family members and business contacts. I ignored them all, focusing instead on the live feed from Harrison Technologies' lobby security camera. Amazing what access you can get when you own a company's main competitor. Dad had just walked in, his usual coffee in hand. He stopped at the reception desk to check messages, glancing up at the lobby TV where the story was playing. I watched as my professional headshot filled the screen, followed by the announcement. Summit Industries proud to announce new CEO and majority shareholder, Alexandra Harrison. The coffee cup slipped from his hand, shattering on the marble floor. His face went from red to red again as he fumbled for his phone. I let his call go to voicemail. Then I opened my laptop and began typing an email to Summit's board. Ladies and gentlemen, as discussed in our previous meetings, Phase 1 of our expansion plan begins today. The first target: Harrison Technologies' main semiconductor contract with Maxwell Corp. They won't see us coming. They never did. Best regards, Alexander Harrison, CEO, Summit Industries. I hit send and leaned back in my chair, looking out over the city skyline. In the distance, I could see Harrison Technologies' headquarters, the building I'd grown up dreaming of running someday. Now I had something better: the power to show them exactly what they'd dismissed. My phone buzzed again. A text from Marcus. "What the hell, Alex? Summit? Are you trying to destroy this family?" I typed back, "No, dear brother. I'm trying to show it what real money looks like." Then I turned off my phone and called my assistant. "Sarah, please inform Summit's PR team we're ready for Phase 2. And get me Maxwell Corp's CEO on the line." "Right away, Ms. Harrison." "Oh, and your father is in the lobby. He's quite insistent about seeing you." I smiled. "Tell security to escort him out. Remind him that as CEO of a competing company, he'll need to schedule any meetings through proper channels. And if he resists, take his picture. We'll need it for the restraining order I'll be filing this afternoon." I stood up, straightening my blazer, the same one I'd worn to that family meeting 2 weeks ago, the one they'd barely noticed because they were too busy counting their own money to see I had more than all of them combined. My office phone lit up. "Maxwell Corp CEO on line 1 for you, Ms. Harrison." I picked up the receiver, my voice calm and clear. "John, Alexander Harrison here. Let's talk about your future with Summit Industries. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't just success. It's success they never saw coming." And I was just getting started. The next morning, Summit Industries stock opened 12% higher. Harrison Technologies dropped 8% in the first hour of trading. I watched both numbers from my private conference room while reviewing the Maxwell Corp contract, now exclusively Summit's, thanks to a late-night negotiation that cut Harrison Tech out of their biggest semiconductor deal. My assistant's voice came through the intercom. "Ms. Harrison, your sister Sophia is here. She doesn't have an appointment, but let her in." I closed my laptop. This should be interesting. Sophia burst through the door in designer heels and barely contained rage. "What are you doing, Alex? First Summit, now Maxwell? Are you trying to destroy everything Dad built?" I gestured to the chair across from me. "Please sit. You're making my security team nervous." "Screw your security team." But she sat anyway, smoothing her silk blouse with trembling hands. "Marcus is having a meltdown. Dad hasn't slept. Mom keeps crying about family loyalty." Fascinating. I pulled up a document on my tablet. "Speaking of loyalty, let's discuss Harrison Tech's new partnership with Vision Electronics. The one you and Marcus pushed through last quarter." She froze. "How do you know about that?" "I know everything, Sophia, including the fact that Vision is 3 months away from bankruptcy. Their financials are a house of cards, and you tied our family company to them because their CEO promised you and Marcus personal kickbacks." That's not. I have the offshore account records." I turned the tablet toward her. "Would you like to see them?" The color drained from her face. "You can't prove anything." "Actually, I can. Summit's forensic accounting team is very thorough. In fact, they're preparing a full report for the SEC right now. You wouldn't dare. We're family." "Family?" I leaned forward. "Was it family when you and Marcus convinced Dad I wasn't worth including in strategy meetings. When you mocked my little consulting work while I was building a billion-dollar portfolio. When you systematically pushed me out of every decision because you thought I wasn't smart enough, rich enough, or ruthless enough to play in your league. She stood up so quickly her chair toppled backward. What do you want? Simple. Harrison Tech cuts all ties with Vision Electronics immediately. You and Marcus resign from the board, citing personal reasons. In return, those financial records never see the light of day. That's blackmail. No, dear sister, that's business. I opened my laptop again. You have until 5 p.m. to decide. After that, the SEC gets an anonymous tip. Dad will never agree to this. Dad doesn't have a choice. Summit now owns 30% of Harrison Tech's supplier network. One phone call from me, and your production lines stop tomorrow. She stared at me like she was seeing me for the first time. Who are you? I'm the sister you should have been paying attention to. I pressed the intercom. Sarah, please show Ms. Harrison out. And send in my M and a team. We have a busy afternoon ahead. After Sophia left, I pulled up the family photo from last Christmas. The last time we'd all been together. Me in the background, quiet, watching, planning. Them in the front, loud, confident, completely unaware that I was about to change everything. My phone buzzed. A message from Marcus. Whatever you're planning, stop. We can talk about this. I typed back. Like you talked about the Vision Electronics deal. Check your email. You have 4 hours. Then I opened the file marked Phase 3 and began reviewing the next step in Summit's expansion. By the time my M and a team arrived, I had already identified 3 more Harrison Tech contracts ready for acquisition. Because this wasn't just about revenge. This was about showing them exactly who they'd underestimated. And I was just getting warmed up. The afternoon news would announce Summit's latest acquisition, a small but crucial chip manufacturer that supplied 40% of Harrison Tech's components. Dad would see it during his usual 3 p.m. coffee break, the same coffee he dropped this morning. I smiled, imagining his reaction. Sometimes the quiet ones aren't quiet because they have nothing to say. They're quiet because they're waiting for the perfect moment to speak. And my moment? It was just beginning. At exactly 4:58 p.m., 2 minutes before my deadline, the resignations hit my inbox. First Marcus, then Sophia, both citing personal reasons for leaving Harrison Technologies board. I forwarded them to my legal team without comment. Then came the call I'd been waiting for. Alexandra. Dad's voice was rough, tired. We need to talk. My office. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Bring Mom. I hung up before he could respond. That night, I sat in my penthouse reviewing old family videos. Christmas mornings where my siblings' gifts dominated the frame while I opened books about business strategy. Board meetings where my raised hand was ignored. The day I graduated top of my class from business school, and they all left early because Marcus had a more important client dinner. I'd recorded everything, not for nostalgia, but for motivation. At 8:55 a.m. the next morning, they arrived. Mom looked like she'd aged 10 years overnight. Dad had traded his usual commanding stride for something closer to a shuffle. They sat across from me, 2 people who'd once seemed larger than life, now looking small against the backdrop of floor-to-ceiling windows. The Vision Electronics deal is dead, Dad said without preamble. And your siblings have resigned. Yes, I know. I pulled up a presentation on the wall screen. Now let's discuss Harrison Technologies' future. Our future? Mom's voice cracked. Alex, you're destroying us. No, Mom. I'm saving you from them. I clicked to the first slide. Detailed documentation of Marcus and Sophia's kickback scheme. They were bleeding the company dry. Vision Electronics was just the start. I have evidence of at least 6 other deals where they took personal payments to push through contracts that hurt Harrison Tech. Dad's face went ashen. That's impossible. We raised them better. Did you? You raised them to believe money and power were everything. That the only way to win was to step on others. The only difference is, they turned those lessons against you too. I clicked through more slides, offshore accounts, secret meetings, forged documents. With each revelation, my parents seemed to shrink further into their chairs. Why show us this? Mom whispered. Why not just let the SEC handle it? Because despite everything, Harrison Technologies is still Grandpa's legacy. And unlike my dear siblings, I actually care about that. Dad looked up sharply. What are you suggesting? A merger. I pulled up the final slide. Summit Industries and Harrison Technologies combine forces. Your technology, my market position. We could dominate the industry for the next 50 years. You want to take over our company? No, Dad. I want to save it. But this time, on my terms. I laid out the details. A fair stock exchange, guaranteed positions for loyal employees, and a new board structure that would protect both companies' interests. And if we refuse, Dad's voice was quiet. Then tomorrow morning, these documents go public. Harrison Tech's stock crashes. The SEC launches an investigation, and everything Grandpa built ends in scandal. Mom started crying softly. Dad just stared at his hands. You have until noon to decide. I stood up. Oh, and one more thing. I want the painting. What painting? Mom looked confused. Grandpa's portrait from the boardroom. The one that watched me being ignored for 20 years. I think it's time he had a new view. At 11:58 a.m., they signed the merger agreement. By 1 p.m., the news had hit every major financial network. Historic MERGER, Summit, and Harrison Technologies, JOIN, FORC. That evening, as maintenance crews hung Grandpa's portrait in my office, I received 3 text messages. From Sophia, I hope you're happy. You've ruined everything. From Marcus, this isn't over, Alex. From Mom, we never saw you. I'm so sorry. I responded only to Mom. It's not about being seen anymore. It's about being heard. And now everyone's listening. 1 month later, I stood in the new combined boardroom of Summit Harrison Technologies. The company's stock had risen 40% since the merger. Our market share had doubled. And my siblings? Last I heard, they were trying to start a venture capital firm. Without access to Harrison Tech's resources or connections, they weren't having much success. My assistant knocked on the door. Ms. Harrison? The board is ready for your first meeting as CEO. I straightened my jacket and picked up my presentation folder, the same one I tried to show them at that family meeting that felt like a lifetime ago. Oh, and your father is here. He says he'd like to sit in, if you'll allow it. I thought about it. Put him in the back. He can watch. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't just proving them wrong, it's proving yourself right. And as I walked into that boardroom, past Grandpa's portrait now hanging behind my chair, I knew I'd done exactly that. Good morning, everyone. I began, my voice clear and confident. Let's talk about the future. Not just my future, or the company's future, but the future I'd built while they weren't watching. Because in the end, they were right about one thing. Business is about money and power. They just never expected me to have more of both than all of them combined. And as I started my presentation, I caught Dad's eye in the back of the room. For the first time in my life, he wasn't looking at me with disappointment or dismissal. He was looking at me with respect. Too little, too late. But exactly what I'd been working for all along.